Well, for more analysis on President Ramaphosa's briefing tonight, we are joined from our Pretoria studios. That's by researcher Dr William Mpofu from the Center of Diversity Studies. Good afternoon, Doctor, and thank you so much for your time on the SABC News Desk this afternoon.
Afternoon.
Doctor, it's just over an hour to go till the nation hears from our president. What do you expect to come out of tonight's briefing?
Yeah, what is happening, and I think what must be brought to light, is that all these statements that are being made by all the political and the legal and ethical players are happening at a time when South Africa is going through a volatile historical and political climate. So what should be expected is that politicians will play the best and the worst game that they know, which is politics. And I think what is important is for the public, the population, to be awake to the important questions of the day, not just political statements, power games, accusations and counter-accusations. Those serve to create some dust that will make us blind to the real questions of the day.
All right. Doctor, the Public Protector's report has found that the president misled Parliament and he also violated some of the Executive Code of Ethics. I just want to garner your thoughts on that report thus far.
Yeah, what I can say is it's very easy to join the Olympics of politics and the Olympics of ethics and power to say who is right, who is wrong. I think there will be time for the courts and other competent offices to deal with that. There are two prominent issues that must be made visible at this point, and that is South Africa's own rigorous democracy. No matter who is right and who is wrong at this moment, some young person somewhere in South Africa is watching, is reading, and can see that being a president is not only being powerful, but also being accountable. To see an entire president taking time to answer questions and to respond to allegations is itself a recommendation of the South African democratic experiment. And also to see such an office as the Office of the Public Protector asking those stubborn and powerful questions, it's important to show that the democratic experiment in South Africa is working on both sides of the divide, but that remains theoretical and academic democracy because it has not attended to the strong questions of the day, which are questions of water, questions of power, questions of bread, questions that have to do with the person in Alexandra, in Khayelitsha, and Gugulethu. Otherwise, if those questions are not answered, all these remain power games by powerful people, privilege games by privileged elites on either side of the political, legal, and ethical divide.
Just on that note, what do you think, Doctor, the impact of this report will be on the public consciousness at this juncture in the country, seeing that fighting corruption and fighting graft was such a signature issue in the CR17 campaign?
Yeah, and it remains like that, in that these are fights for corruption and fights against the fight against corruption. But how strong, how durable are these fights? And the definition of the corruption itself, is it the corruption that is big and that matters? Because what we are looking at are corruption allegations against individuals, against organizations, against parties, and against groupings. But the biggest form and the most stubborn and the most violent form of corruption that is at play in South Africa and beyond in other countries of the global south is systemic and structural corruption that does not make it possible for even such a powerful experiment as the South African democratic experiments to deliver bread, to deliver equality, to deliver the basics of life to the common men and women and the citizenry. So I think small questions that are being asked and small questions that are being answered when the systemic and structural questions remain stubborn and durable in front of us. We are sort of chasing some rats when the real lions are approaching.
Doctor, how serious do you think these findings from the public protector are going to be for the presidency right now?
They will be as serious as the political stamina, the political energy, the legal energy, and the ethical energy behind them. Or they will be as useless as because of the political stamina, the legal stamina, and the ethical stamina of those like the president himself that are being challenged. So I insist that at the end of the day, for the ordinary bread eater and water drinker, it's power games by powerful people, it's privileged games by privileged people. But I think the real questions of the moment are still to be answered. Otherwise, we are just watching a movie of powerful people playing powerful games and not answering scratching the itch that troubles the poorest of the poor in the republic.
All right. The public protector's report is alleging some kind of improper conduct or relationship between President Cyril Ramaphosa and African Global Operations, what we know as BOSASA. But in the president's response, if you go through that, one of the strongest arguments that he made is that he didn't know who made the payments and that the payments were made to the CR17 campaign and not to him. Then if the money was not to his benefit, then he's under no duty to declare that sponsorship or that funding. What do you make of this argument, Doctor?
I'm sure we have not seen anything yet. As these intensify, we are going to witness a lot of political gamesmanship and a lot of legal gamesmanship, and all these currents are going to be spectacular and will challenge even the experts in politics and in the law. But it's all that games of the powerful, games of the privileged, that are really not going to give strong answers to the strong questions of the day. Because for the needy, for the poor, for the hungry, for the thirsty, for those that still sleep in the dark, we just see legal giants and ethical giants and political giants fighting on a big stadium, but nothing like a slice of bread or a dust of food is falling down for them to pick up the crumbs. So the powerful will play these powerful games, but it's important for this to be marshaled towards answering the questions of the day, which is the poverty of the people, their hunger, and the scarcity of life itself in the mass and majority of the people of the Republic.
Dr. William Mpofu, thank you so much for joining us from our Pretoria studios. Let's move on now.